Welcome to the next tutorial for VMA3D's editor. This time we're going to go over a few of the camera actions and a few others to show you what those do. The first on the list is settings. What we'll do is we'll drag the settings action over and you'll notice just a couple things. Field of view, FOV for short, field delay, and rotation speed, and camera target. Now camera target is just that. It's what the camera is looking at. It defaults to the center of the scene, which is 0, 0, 0, but it can be used if you have different objects in different positions to actually look at those. Field of view, the default is 45. If you change that to 60, for example, changes the field of view to 60. Now the field of view can be changed with a delay. So if you want to change that to a number and then give it a little delay, looks like a move, but it's really just changing the field of view. It doesn't look as distorted now. The next you'll notice is rotation speed. By default it's 0, but if we were to enter a 1, you'll notice the camera is now rotating around the scene. The higher the number, the faster it is. Now if you want to go in the opposite direction, you just use a minus sign in front and it'll go in the opposite direction. Now the next is move. The move is just like the move for object, but it's moving a camera. Now you have two positions. You have the starting position and the ending position. So as you move around, and if you haven't figured it out yet, the motion in the scene, the movement of the scene is used with your mouse, your left mouse. You can move anywhere around on the rotation, and the mouse wheel lets you zoom in and out. Now by default it's 0, 0, 0, 0 on both rotation and position. For this example, I'm just going to change the position for the ending coordinates. And I'll tell you why in just a second. Now say we want it to move from what it was to here. We'll just hit grab ending coordinates. And of course you could type those in if you wanted to. How long it's going to take for the motion, and what kind of easing style. Like before, it's the same easing styles that you can select. Now if we hit stop, and there you see the move. Now by default it goes to the 0, 0 on the starting. Now you can put the position in there, whatever you move to, it's going to start there. And so if we hit start and then hit test, it's going to go from one position to the other. But if you want it to start wherever the last position was, just leave that at 0, 0 on both rotation and position. Then what it'll do is it'll pick up wherever the last camera was left. So if we were to add another one, it's going to remember where it is now and then just go there. It just saves you a little bit of time. Especially when you've got dozens of these in your action list. The next one is called lock, and all lock does is it locks the controls out from the user. Now like I said, you can move around, but there might be times when you have a flat plane that's just lined up with a camera that looks perfect and you don't want it moved. You just bring the lock in there. Now if I just do a test, you can see I'm pressing my button, I'm zooming in and out, and it's not letting me do anything. Now we've got unlock there just so I can go back while I'm in test mode. But when you hit stop and play, it's going to be locked. Now the only way to get it out is unlock. You don't have to do anything, it's just going to unlock the command. So if you wanted it locked in the beginning and then you want it locked in the beginning and unlocked later, that gives you the options. And of course you would have different actions in between those. The next one is called attach, and it does pretty much what you think it does. It's going to attach the object to the camera, so when you move the camera around, that object's going to move with it. Now you see now the camera is just moving by itself, but any object that can be locked is going to show in the list, and all you have to do is select it. And you'll notice that now that object is locked to the camera. So no matter how I move or turn the scene, it's locked to the camera's position. You have an offset for rotation and speed. Its default is minus 1,000, but you can change that to whatever you want. And it's going to move with the camera. We also have something called fade in and fade out. Now this is useful if you're working with a lot of objects or a lot of big files, big textures, big music files and stuff. You can add the fade out at the very beginning of your scene, and when you do, you might want to add the loading panel tag. This puts a loading button up there, display. You can fade out to whatever color you want. That's what it would look like when you go into the mode. If you don't want that, you can just have it fade out, and it can be whatever color you want. How many seconds you want it to take to fade out? By default, you want it immediately. If this is the way you're going to use it, so you would just leave it at 0. And then once everything is loaded, you would use fade in. It defaults to 1 second, and again you can change the color if you changed it in the fade out. We'll put a little weight in here so you can see what I'm talking about. Now when we hit play, there's your loading, and then it fades in. Very useful. I use those probably in almost every scene. A few others that we like is 2D text. 2D text does just what you think it would. Brings in 2D text. You pick the color, you pick the text, you pick which font. We've got a ton of fonts that you can select from. Font size, and this can be treated just like an object. You can cut in, fade in, slide down. Same thing for the out, same thing for the display. Ease in style. Mesh type is the same, basic, Fong and Lambert. Works just the same as just with 2D text. Cut a few of these out. Now, when you have a spotlight selected, it will actually show the drop shadow just like it does on the other ones. Remember what I said, it does just like the others as far as the positioning. You can have it look at camera. You can change the opacity. Now, one feature that's nice with this is you can add, for those that are into HTML, you'll know what this is. It's a less than sign, BR, greater than sign. And when you do that, it allows you to have more than one line. Now the position, let's see if we go down in font size so you can see both. The other one's just underneath. It gives you 2 lines instead of 1. You can add another BR if you need 3. So if you have smaller text, you can have a full page of text there doing just that with the add 2D text. We also have 3D text, and again it does just what you think it does. Brings in 3D text. Now it doesn't look really good when you're just using it in basic, but when you add Fong or Lambert, it can give you some nice detail. You can use a color or you can use a texture. Now skyboxes are useful as well. You can add a skybox. You can use a solid color. And you can use an actual cube which can look like this. So you can use your mouse to move around and see photos in 3D. And by default, it's going to go to a certain rotation direction, but you can change that if you're not planning on moving around. So, example, if you lock your camera, this can give you the best position in that particular skybox. Now, something else you can use besides skyboxes are what we call 360 videos. We've got a number of them that you can choose from. If you design your own, you can upload those as well. And as you can see, this is a live video that you're looking at. Using your mouse to move around just like before. Can't zoom with these, but you can move around. And if it has audio, it plays the audio. Now let's add a floor back in here. We'll add the Fong on there. And we've added alpha videos. Now alpha videos are videos that have a transparency. This is different than chroma key. Chroma key only does a certain color. These were created like this in different 3D programs, and some were camera or real photos that were done, or videos. Used to, you would see a lot of Flash that did this. You can't see it in Flash anymore. And unfortunately, there's 2 browsers that don't support it right now, which are Safari, and Edge. All the other ones seem to be doing fine with them. Just to give you a couple examples of what some of these look like. Now we can loop the video. Usually you wouldn't want a curtain opening up continuously, but just for this, we're going to let it repeat over and over so you can see what it's doing. It basically puts a flat plane right in front of the scene. Remember earlier where I was talking about if you had a flat plane, you might want to lock the scene, lock the camera. This is one of those examples. You can position it where you want. We have defaults where we think it looks best, default width and height, but you can change those. A lot of these are great for the intro parts of your scenes. And we also have a lot of hand gestures. As you can see, it's transparent over an entire scene, so whatever you've got in your scene gets taken care of. Now, you can change the position so it would be in front, but on floors sometimes it will give you this effect. But there's certain ones that you want it to be like that, and I'll give you an example. There's some where the floor cracks. If I can get it here. Okay. Now we can add an image. There we go. Now if you put a texture behind the scene, remember how you could use front and back? Just to give you an idea here what you can do when you mix and play. We don't want it on a flat plane, we want it in the back. There you go, you get a very cool effect then. Looks like there's just a hole in the road appears. And again, you don't want these to loop. It depends on the video. You'll just have to play and see which one works best for you. And again, these things mix and match, so you can bring 3D text and you can rotate that around. Now let me show you a few others and then we'll call it quits for now. Fun. Okay, carousel. For those that have a lot of photos, you're probably used to this kind of thing. I'm a big Doctor Who fan, so let's see if we can bring up some of the doctors. And select your carousel type. And then test it in the scene. Now, it's okay, but they're a little close together, so we go to settings and change the radius to get a bigger radius. There we go, that looks a lot better. And again, you can have basic, Phong, Lambert. You can have them on flat planes, you can have them on cubes. Now these pictures were designed to be a little taller, so if we were to give the scale on the y-axis, there we go, that looks a little better. And of course you can position and test those and try different things, and it updates the scene as you go. And there's a number of different carousels. We'll be adding more as we go. Now let's add a skybox. And you'll see there's a few others. Water is real nice. If we bring the water in, now we've got an ocean. You click here, you can change that to more of a lake or river type texture. And we also have terrain, where you can bring in a terrain for the scene as well. You can do it mapped onto a texture. If you like the way it looks, you can just hit save, and it will save that texture and remember it and come up next time. If you don't, it'll just be random each time. You could add a face to this and map it onto a face and use a face for the texture, which gives you some really crazy looking effects. And one we didn't go over here is sprite and models. Say if we want to bring a model in, 3D model, just that simple to bring a 3D model in. It's one of the latest features of three.js. Really works well. And just by changing the position, you can change the scale, just like everything else. We've just broken them down into individual pieces to make it a little easier to follow. Everybody knows what an image is. Everybody knows the video. Sprites. Sprites are basically animated GIFs or GIFs, depending on who brought you up. You can actually even upload your own GIF or GIF, and it will convert it into a sprite for you. Give you an idea of what I'm talking about. I know you've seen thousands of these as memes. You can bring those into a scene easily, just like you do anything else with VMA3D. There she is. Well, I hope some of these things have explained a little bit better of what you can actually do with VMA3D. Again, try it out, see what you think. Give us your feedback and make some images and videos and IVS scenes that you can share in our gallery. Thanks.